stories like this happening, but a lot of them are very, very cleverly written and they're original, you know.
Yeah.
Some of the series are fantastic. You know, like
I think that's the difference in mainstream comic writing. Like, is back in the day, during the 70s, before boys' comics actually caught up with girls' comics, like the Pat Mills and John Wagner coming in and sort of shaping up, traditional comic writing. But those writers had a life experience and took their writing from books and real life. The trouble is now, the comic writers, all they had read and experienced is comics, solitary comics, the American stuff primarily. And we just get a Spider-Man recycled over and over again.
It's written by fans.
Yeah, and there's just no creativity really.
I would argue that it's written by people who do comics, that they're simply brought in. It's time we did another Spider-Man, or Fantastic Four, or whatever.
It's a bit like what Nigel was saying earlier about the success, getting down your stories about real people, rather than stories about a media property that sells. Well, yeah.
I said I've always been every week, and I find stories like Asterix that can be read on different levels.
Yeah.
And a kid can read to get one thing out of it. And I read Beetle and I can get something completely different. And there's stuff that I would roar with laughter, but yet the kids that I'm showing when we're doing our workshops don't understand what I'm laughing at. Because they're laughing at something completely different. So it's, as Nigel said, read the Beetle. It's not what you might think it is now. And it's very, very cleverly written.
And look further afield.
Yeah.
Comic shops.
Yeah. Article about Beetle last year. Mike Hewitt, he's doing his PhD on the British comics and Beetle, and it's a great one. It's why aren't we talking about Beetle? And it's a really good article. I'll try and get a copy of it and send it.
So comics, and the people who talk about comics, is currently dominated by people who are basically fans. And the Beano is not a comic that comic fans read. It's a people who like to read funny things read. It's a different thing, and you don't find as many. There's always a picture of a Beano collector in the Beano, but you don't have the same talk about collecting and putting them in plastic bags and back and forwards. It's a different experience. And that's why there is and that's why, well, yeah, it's the experience I had when I was a kid. And it's more fun.
They've got a slight problem with the fact that each comic has a different place where it would be marketed. I mean, the Beano, I'd expect to see in supermarkets or whatever, parents coming in with little kids. But 2018, maybe in a comic shop. I don't know. I think this is where the problem is. You can't. They're all different, aren't they? You all go to different places.
Well,
The library's not different places.
my view is that the current market, which is based on what we call floppies, including 2018, is probably unsustainable. With the distribution problems and the cost of a comic now, an individual comic is so high that we might be better off abandoning that and going for the graphic novels or the collection straight off and trying to get them into places like bookshops, libraries, and that's the main place you get them from. Because at the moment, the comic shop, if you go into a comic shop and you're not a comic reader, there can be quite odd places to go, and they can be quite off-putting. And maybe if we get comics into a place where they're more commonplace, we might get a better result.
I mean, I think that's an advantage of the scale that we're working at, as small press independent people, is that, yes, you want to be aware of what the industry is doing, but none of us individually actually have to worry about, oh, how do we get this wrong, copies. So, well, we don't have that. We don't need to, we can say, right, that one bookshop and that one street and that one town, where they take these, you can build up that relationship, and that is something that you can, or, like yourself as well, having some specific event.
There will be a time whenever, at the moment, since there's not very much there, there's not we need a critical mass of comics in different genres so that we can make them not look like those funny superhero stuff, and we make them look like a medium. So it would be nice to have romance comics there, it would be nice to have westerns, historical comics have to be something that we can push through schools. If you look at the French historical comics, they are remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And the French war comics in particular are a different thing from what we see here.
And war comics that are self-contained, as opposed to continuing stories.
Exactly.
So you go to the library and you see a Batman graphic novel, it's volume 17, and you turn to the first page and, well, what's going on here? And then you get to the end of it, and it's continued in the next issue, which isn't there. So we need a lot more self-contained stuff.
We do,
And again, that's the benefit of
Yeah.
the size that you're working at.
Yeah,
Again, who's
yeah.
popular, our 17 issue, you don't have to worry about having a media franchise that we're working toward. You do a book, and then you can sell a book.
We were talking about that yesterday, Peter.
Yeah.
In Europe about sort of the French comic or French graphic novel. They're all hardcover, they're all self-contained stories, and the artwork is wonderful.
Yes.
And so, and it's like you said there earlier, that's what we should be possibly aiming for.
Because otherwise, I think that the superhero science fiction horror market is going to spiral in itself until it hits necessities, and that will be the end of the comics.
You're getting your monthly floppies now with 10 varied covers. And what they're doing is selling several of those covers to the same person. It's artificially inflating the circulation figure, just simply to keep executives in their jobs.
But I think the films are on the way out as well. Because I think they have their time. Because the stories are getting worse. And they're just rehashing and sort of, and then trying to find new characters, throw them in the comics and sort of, oh, like a movie out of that.
I think it's fascinating that we've got quite a lot of impetus in this room and people who want to do things. So the next step is to find a way of keeping in touch and
I think so,
moving
yeah.
forward. So I don't know, Bob, if you and I and Andrew will rope in, Andrew,
Yes.
Would it be worth a WhatsApp group?
try to set something up. Yeah, it might be worth a WhatsApp group, or even better might be just to get everybody's email address gathered up, and so that we can start putting something together.
Even if we run a video meeting once, every so often.
I think it'd be really good to be in contact with the Germans.
Sure.